So we're going to start off looking at right angle triangles, and you might wonder what this has got to do with trigonometry, the task we're about to do, but it's actually really, really important. If we can't get this part right, everything else we're going to learn won't work properly. As well as we do it, it's not going to give us the right answers. So I've got a right angle triangle here, and I've drawn an angle on. I've called it theta. That's a Greek letter. I'll write it out here for you. And it's quite often used to represent angles in maths. Like that, okay? Have fun practicing drawing those. They're quite nice to draw when you get used to them. Underneath here, I've got a checklist. And on my triangle, before I can do any kind of trigonometry, I have to have completed my checklist. So I have to make sure I've got an angle drawn, or an angle labelled, which is here. It's got to also have, I've not written on here, but a right angle for what we're doing right now. Okay. Now, when you're posed the questions, you're usually given one of these things. You're normally given your right angle. And at this point, you'll be given the angle. You'll be told one of your angles. So we've got that here. Now, it might be that you're told the one up here. But in this example, we're using this one here. Okay, this angle down here. The next thing we have to label is the hypotenuse. Now, remember, it's always the longest side. And the way we find this, we practiced this recently with Pythagoras' theorem. It's the side opposite the right angle. Okay, and I'm going to label that, not like in Pythagoras we called it C, in trigonometry we're going to call it H, okay, for hypotenuse. I'm just going to pop over here, op, right, angle, okay. So we should be happy with that one. We've been doing that for a little while now. The next one, the most important one that's kind of new to us, is called the opposite, and it changes depending on your triangle. It's always the angle, it's always a side opposite your angle, the one you're working with. Now, we've not labelled this angle. We're not interested in this one just for now. It's this one, that's kind of the big angle around here. We're interested in this angle. So its opposite side is the one over here, and we're going to call that O. Okay, so for opposite angle. That's the really important one, because the last one, the adjacent, is quite nice because it's just the last side, okay? So it's the adjacent. And adjacent means next to. It means next to, and it is next to our angle. Now, the hypotenuse is also next to our angle, but it's already been labelled as the hypotenuse. Let's just try one more of those. It's going to be quite a brief video. Now this time, a little bit different, okay? Let's turn that over just so we're seeing it in a slightly different way. We get so used to seeing triangles always the same way up. So this time I've actually labelled the, let me get another colour just so it stands out on the checklist. What have we got here? Blue. Okay, so this time I've labelled the right angle. Brilliant, and tick that one off. And I've actually labelled the opposite. I've not told you which angle we're interested in, but I have told you the side which is opposite it. Okay, so that tells us that this side over here must be our angle. Okay, there's our theta, and it's opposite the opposite side. Okay, the next one, so we've got the angle, and the next one we should always do is the hypotenuse, which is opposite the right angle, and that last one is the adjacent. Always falls into place at the end. As long as you've got these two right, you can't go wrong with the adjacent. I've uploaded some practices for you to try on these. Don't be complacent with them. It's quite easy to trip up with these. It seems quite straightforward, but please take your time with them and make sure you're labelling them properly, because if we can get this bit sorted, the rest of it falls into place quite nicely.